host for Limbwalkers. Limbwalkers is a podcast we put together with the hope of being able to share with you techniques and methods to which you can learn how to walk out on the limb of life, take some chances. I'm not talking about crazy stuff. I'm talking about start a business, get married, run a specific physical test that you didn't think you could do. It's anything but hanging on to the root of the tree to that center base where it's safe. I want you to get out on the limb and feel it, and that's what we do with this program, give you ideas and thoughts on how you can begin to comfortably go out on the limb. And by the way, I want to say good morning to my co-host, Adriana Alvarez.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just back from 2 weeks a week and a half in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why we go this time of year. It is so hot down there. And although we came home to the same heat we had down there, so it became easy to adjust.
There you go. So we've been doing this podcast for quite a while now. This is going into about 1.5 years for the full podcast. But for this kind of concept that we're doing right now, it's been about 6 months. And we talk about a lot of different things. And these previous episodes, we were talking about Newton's Cradle. We were talking about different quotes that these inspirational individuals have said and how we apply those to life. But alongside with that, we kind of want to ask ourselves about how we adapt these into our lives, into how we say with walking on the limb of life, with Limbwalkers here. And then I just kind of want to ask you how life is a series of choices, because as we kind of go through all of these different topics and thoughts and ideas, how can we apply these to how we make everyday choices? And I kind of like to look at that as what you will hear all the time, always, that if first thing you wake up in the morning, if you make your bed, you've already achieved one task in the day. But that is a choice that you make in life for organizational purposes and or just to say, hey, if I did one thing today, I made my bed. So how is life a series of choices?
Well, I mean, life is waking up every morning and deciding, if you really put a count to it, I'm not even sure how you would ever evaluate it, but if you could put a count to it, every time you make any decision, I mean, it can be from what do I have for breakfast? What do I say to my wife?
Mm-hmm.
What car do I drive? Do I go to work today? If I go to work today, do I work hard or do I not? Do I study? Do I not? I mean, life is a series of choices, and the net result of your life is going to be the type of choices that you make. So when you make them, you want to be extremely well prepared to be able to determine what steps you're going to take in your life. Am I going to decide to take a job I've just been offered? Well, let's see. How much does it pay? Where do I have to go to work? Is it a long distance? Am I familiar with the field? All of those are miniature choices. But in life, we have those choices which are day to day, and then we have the big choices which could impact your entire future. And then you have to live with the outcomes of those choices. And it's not easy. I mean, the daily, day-to-day things that we do are fairly simple to be able to deal with. It's just a matter, do I eat? Nope. Do I take a drink? Sure. Do I go to work? Nah. And there's a outcome based on each of those decisions that you make. And the key in life is being able to get to the point where you can be faced with those choices and you make the majority of them the right choice so that the outcomes come out in a positive value.
Mm-hmm. So alongside with that, you said it'll come with a positive value. That leads us into the next question of life is a series of outcomes. And we kind of see this a little bit with what we were talking about earlier, that I'm trying to remember exactly the wording, but it was basically what you put out into the world is what you'll get back, in a sense.
Newton's Cradle.
Newton's Cradle, there you go. And also that hard work will pay off eventually that you're not going to see the outcome right then and there automatically most of the time. Sometimes you will, and when you do, hey, that's great. If you can, that's amazing. But when you work towards something for so long, the outcome will be even more rewarding than what you thought it was at the very beginning. So life is a series of outcomes. Why, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, it's just basically it's like a mathematical equation.
Mm-hmm.
Choices that you make equal the outcomes of your life and how you live it. I mean, we can try to make it as complex as we want,
Yes.
but every day we're making choices, wherever they may be, career, individually, whatever. And each of those choices has an outcome that's either going to be good, bad, or neutral.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to you to build the count on the positive side, on the good side, to the highest degree you possibly can, which means sometimes you make a decision, and when you make a choice, the outcome isn't right, and then you have to adjust at that point to move forward on where your ultimate goal is. You know, what we forget about is it's good to have a goal in your life, something you're really trying to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
Because how do you measure any of this for success? I mean, if you're making a choice and there's an outcome from it, whatever your ultimate goal is, if it's impacted to a positive level, then you've made the right choice for that day. Also taking into account impacts on family and friends and finances and everything else. But it's a matter of making choices, and hopefully the majority of those choices come out in a positive method.
Mm-hmm. So, with these outcomes and choices, another question that kind of sparks up is how do you learn to never quit or quit in that sense? Because somebody could say, well, I work so hard, but I'm not seeing any outcome. I've been doing this for however many days, months, years, etc. I've been doing this for so long. How do I know when I should keep going or that I should stop right there?
Boy, that's a great question. I mean, it, it, I just know that when I make choices, and if they're really something that I've developed just a passion for, I'm going to probably keep going longer than I would if it's just an average thing I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say, this isn't worth the time and the effort I'm putting into it. But it's something that I have a burning desire to achieve and to make happen. I'm going to stick with it and do the things I need to do, even getting negative outcomes. I'm going to keep going until I do a reevaluation that says maybe you shouldn't do this any longer. I mean, when I left Prudential Insurance Company and opened my own insurance agency, it was a big choice. And ultimately, if I look at it 50 some years later, it was a great choice to do that. But there were a lot of intermediate choices along the way, which happened to fall into what type of insurance do I continue to offer? Is there a place I'd rather specialize? Do I want to grow staff or stay small? I mean, there's all kinds of choices you can make. And that's what life is all about. You make those choices in your business, or your career. You make those choices in your family. You make those choices in your extracurricular activities. The key is never to quit at the first drop of bad news. And especially, I think where you stay on track and keep going, even though bad news comes, and maybe in multiple ways and times, is when you really have a burning desire to achieve that goal you've got, something that turns you on so much, you're not gonna quit. When I come next week or for our next show, I'm going to bring the book, The Best of Success, which is the book that I gave to you, Adriana, of all the famous quotes. And I was just running through one that was talking about when the right things happen. And I want to read some of those to you to realize and kind of mimic further the fact that you don't quit. When you quit is when you're just a step away. In fact, one of the quotes was, were the French really less effective fighting than the British? And the answer was, The British only fought 5 minutes longer than when the French quit, and that's why the British beat them. So life is a matter of making decisions, living with them, not quitting at the first gulp. And by the way, if it's something you really don't like doing, you may quit at the first option. But if it's something you really have as a goal in your life, you're not going to quit that easy.
So with these goals, how do we set them? We keep talking about goals, setting your sights on something, making sure that you're motivated enough to do it. But how do you set those things?
Well, I think it's individual for each person. I mean, I can't tell you what your goals should be. I can just say the first thing you need to do is, as you begin to develop a list of things you want to accomplish, you need to write them down. Visualization is probably the most important thing you can do to commit yourself to the ultimate goal you're trying to achieve. So you write it down. And in fact, I suggest you write those goals you want to achieve down in at least 5 different places, all different places for this reason. You want to read them as you go through your day. One when you first get up, another when you're in brushing your teeth, another in your dining table, another one in your car, one in your office, and read those goals. And as you add to them, because you find new things you want to accomplish, write those down on each of those papers and read them daily. What that does is it imprints on your brain something you want to have happen. And imprinting means that now in your subconscious, which can begin to work without you even knowing it, giving you ideas and things to think about what you want to do. I've got a chart. I'm not going to show you and get into it today, but this is a very simple chart that I picked up. And as I mentioned, there's nothing new in what I'm presenting. This is the work of all of the most famous, motivated people and successful people you'd ever want to know. And this little chart is called The Science of Your Success. And probably at the next program, we'll talk about the makeup of this chart, but it's systematic. You have an idea, it becomes subconsciously in your inner thoughts, and then you take it through these different steps until you have success. And then if you wish to move on to another one, you move on. But you have to see it and believe it. So setting goals and determining how you're going to get there, the choices you make in your character and what you're going to do, they're going to be ever-changing, but they need to be in writing.
There we go. So alongside with these goals, I like how you said that they need to be in writing. I was currently looking at something, and one of the things that said was handshake agreements. I was like, oh yeah, no, I need that in writing.
That's
really
one of the
funny.
strange things for people of my age who are trying to communicate to the younger generation and the mid generations, is things change.
Yes.
I mean, I would have easily done a handshake deal with just about anybody 40 years ago.
Yep.
Today,
Now you need it,
unfortunately,
everything.
you need to have something that goes more concrete so you're protected. And that's just good business sense.
That is. So, as we kind of talk about setting goals and kind of learning that things change in that sense, how do we learn to continue to keep that self-discipline even when things change? Because taking a look at it, if somebody is maybe starting a brand new chapter in their life, whether that be a career, schooling, and or that they are just entering into a new environment that they may not be comfortable with. And we've talked about that the difference between staying in a certain environment and then venturing out onto that limb into a different environment that you may not be comfortable with, but you have to adapt to that said environment. How do we keep learning to be self-disciplined in that sense? Because it may be harder for some individuals. They may have something that's set that works for them, but then once they adapt that change, they may use that and it may benefit them, but they may lose what worked in the past, and that what worked in the past could benefit them in the future.
Sure.
So how do we stay self-disciplined?
Adaptation, I mean, you have to be prepared to make changes. What keeps you on track more easily than anything is finding something that is so in your heart to do and be committed to. So you find that goal in your life, or that thing you want to accomplish. And if you want it bad enough, you need to then begin practicing how I'm going to get there. What bankers do I need to know? What people do I need to hire? And you need to follow that path until there's a disruption, and they always come, and that's why people quit. But it's a matter of setting a discipline. You need to do it, these habits of being successful, at least 30 days. And if you do them 30 days, it is hard to break that habit. I'll give you an example. I came up with a completely new physical fitness routine probably about 4 years ago. I do it every morning. Why? Because I got used to doing it, and it's just what I do. It's part of my routine. When you make a task that you have to do a routine and part of your routine, you'll do it and continue to do it. And I do it for health purposes. I've had some heart issues I've had corrected, and it's just a matter of discipline. Having discipline is probably one of the hardest things to have. But I will tell you, if you find something that you really strive to achieve, it's easier to keep your thoughts and mind on being disciplined to do the things you need to do in order to succeed. If you really love it. If you don't, it's kind of a wishy-washy, well, I wish I could be this. And it just doesn't mean that much to you, so you're not going to do the things you need to every day to get there. Some of it's fun. Most of it isn't, and that's why most people quit. So finding something you love to do is the real key there. Otherwise, you will struggle with it to some degree if it's not something you really want to achieve and make happen.
Okay. And alongside with that, and what we set out to achieve, and looking at life, it's kind of interesting because what I hear constantly in media and TV with these words of wisdom from any individuals, everybody looks at life very differently.
Right.
And it could be based on how you were raised and how the cards were stacked for you and or against you. And one of the questions on here is, what is your purpose in life? And that question just reminds me of a show where of a show, and the character had said, "What is the secret to life?" And they said that people change people. And yes, of course, depending on what the show concept was, people can look at that and it's like, okay, yeah, like people do change people, but somebody who may not rely on individuals a lot won't see it like that. So how do people look at it as, what is your purpose in life?
Well, purpose is individually selected. If you were to ask me what my purpose in life is, I would tell you that for the first 26 years of it, it was just learning and family and being nurtured and trying to live a life that had catastrophe in it, some good, but a lot of bad. And at that point, you just, you do the best you can. But what grew to me in my mid to late 20s, was I really became passionate about making my life goal to help as many people as I can to live the best life that they can live, and to study a large number of the positive thinking preachers and teachers and educators, some religious, some not. But the bottom line is to study and learn these things, to understand them, to, number one, be successful in my own life, and number two, to help as many people as I can try to find the path I was fortunate enough to find that made my life so incredibly rewarding and wonderful. So it can change. What your purpose can change. But for me, for a long time, for 50 years, I would say, because it was around age 26 when I think it was Zig Ziglar speak. And it turned me on, and I began reading beyond him, Norman Vincent Peale, Robert Schuller, all the big names that are out there today. I want to help as many people understand that they too can walk out on the limb of life and live it like anybody else can who's willing to follow the path and to pay the price. And there is a price to pay for it. It isn't just easy. You get there and you're done. It's in fact, even when you get there, the work has sometimes just begun, because now you want to maintain that high and keep going further, in my case, in trying to help as many other people as I possibly can.
And with, like you said, you want to help as many people as you possibly can. And in doing so, people see that as a very positive thing in life, helping people. How can you look at that in a negative way? You want to help everybody that you can. And do you ever get that feeling? It's like sometimes you want to help as many people as you can, but there's that feeling where it's like that you can't help everybody.
I mean, that certainly is a frustration. You'd like to make everybody's life as happy as mine seems to be, but you're not going to do that. And we're all different, and we all have different life experiences, and we all make different decisions to be at the place in life that we are currently. But I think I've mentioned this quite a few times on the air, and we're going to spend time actually reading this piece in the near future, and it's called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And all I can say is, if nothing else, the audience picks up that treatise, As a Man Thinketh, and spend time reading a little bit every day through each of the different titles of discussion that he goes through, you will find that your entire life experience, happy or sad, successful or failure, is all based on how you see it and how you allow outside circumstances to impact your life. You control it. Everything is in your mind, and what you succeed at or fail at is made up starting point in your head. So if you start out with the wrong end goal, you're going to end up there, and it isn't out on the limb anywhere. It's somewhere holding close to that tree because you're afraid to take that chance on life. So that's the purpose of this program, is to make you realize that you too, everybody can get there. But in reality, it's as simple, and I tell this to everybody: read As a Man Thinketh, and you will learn more about how to live your life and get beyond the influences, negative in many cases, of other people and circumstance. It's always up to you.
There you go. And alongside how you said, it's always up to you. Now, some individuals may look at life like I'm not in control. But one thing that I've heard, and I hear this from a lot of maybe social media influencers that do the life journey, the life talks, the personal journals, they do podcasts like these, and they use the phrase, what you're not changing, you are choosing. And I want to know what your thoughts are on that, because I heard that recently. I was talking with somebody, and they were saying it's hard to kind of change what this is in my life, and I just can't do it. And I said, what you're not changing, you're choosing. You're choosing to not change that factor in your life that is affecting you so much. But some people, it may not get through to them that they could not choose that aspect. So what is your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think, as I mentioned as the first statement today, we talked about choice. Choice is an individual thing. I mean, certainly you have the influences of other people around you, and you listen to those influences. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. But I just believe that, yes, when you've decided not to do something, you have made a choice, and it's not to do something. people do that for a variety of reasons. Fear of failure, fear of being laughed at. Uh, I can't even. I try not to think that way. So for me, it's hard to think of things that would keep me off where I want to set my goals to go. But I'll give you a simple little goal. This sounds silly as heck, but years ago, 1967, I won the Hammond Times Junior Golf Tournament, and like a silly college kid, I took the trophy when I was cleaning house to move into my own place, and I threw the trophy away saying, "Oh, who wants that?" Well, I decided recently I wanted to get that thing back. So my goal became I want to get back that trophy, or at least a picture of the Hammond Times article about the victory. So first thing I did was I stopped at the Times location in in Munster, and I'll be darned, but the door was locked. You can't even get in there anymore. You're given a list of phone numbers, and if you want to get a hold of somebody, you have to call somebody. Boy, how news has changed. But that was the first blocking stone in my path to find that information. I'm now on the path with the number to call the right person to get it done, and hopefully it can get done, or I'll find another path to get it done. The key is, if you want something bad enough, and it's a goal and a dream that you really feel strongly about, you're going to do whatever it is. You'll never quit. My wife says that to me all the time. Why don't you just quit? I'm not going to give up trying to find the answer to this, or taking this step that somebody else wouldn't take. I don't care if I'm embarrassed. I'll get over it. So choice is personal, and the results are your own reward. So take time to think about your choices before you make them, if you have time.
So, as we kind of are in our last 5 minutes here with the podcast, the last question that I think I want to ask is, throughout all of these different questions that we asked, how do you stay healthy with it all? Because when somebody looks at the words healthy, they automatically think of your physical. They don't really look at it as your emotional and your mental. For instance, right now, my brother, he's in boot camp for Marine training. And I got a letter from him, and he said that it is wearing down on his mental and his emotional, because of not only the physical part that they put them through, but also just the mentality and emotions that they're feeling. And as extreme as that one is, other individuals may see choosing things in their life and not choosing things in their life, as well as setting goals, having this pathway of life. It could be overwhelming for them, and it could be very intimidating for some. So how do you have a healthy, positive mindset within all of that?
It doesn't just come. I'm probably a little bit of the oddball because I've been reading and studying these things for 60 years. And I read and study every morning. I read something, well, actually, I think I shared with you, I read about 11 books, parts of books, not the full book, parts of books that are motivational to me. Some of them are biblical, some of them are motivational. Some of them are personal life stories. I've gotten into reading a lot of the Stoics, who their big thing is, if you can't change it, don't worry about it. Get away from it, move on, or continue to do it and succeed at it. But for me, I think it's just a matter of you have to completely, continuously feed your mind with positive things. I don't care where they come from. It could be music. And if you can, take the opportunity to meditate on all of these things so that you feel that you're able to get out of it what you need out of it. But for me, keeping the strength is a matter of continuous, by habit, discipline, reading, exercising, and doing the things I need to do to be successful. I seldom have a day where when I walk out the door to go do whatever my task is for the day, that I don't walk out feeling like $1 million. And it's because of the reading and the exercise. You can't just get there by saying, whoop, today I'm going to feel great. Because guess what? Whoop, sometimes you don't.
Mm-hmm. I think we had amazing discussion for this podcast, especially since, well, our audience wouldn't know that because we post these to make sure that we are able to have a bit of a cushion if we are unable to do a podcast one week or a different week. But for not doing this podcast last week, we had amazing discussion and implementing our previous conversations into today's and just kind of tying it all together because how I like to look at this podcast, Limbwalkers walking on the limb of life, that if you can kind of see in the background of the graphic that you have there, some of them intertwine and connect together. So it's a very inspirational podcast for our listeners, our viewers. And do you have any final words as we wrap up here?
And nope, I'll just look forward to the next program where we can help each and every one of you gain the confidence to walk on that limb and experience life as you should.